In this lecture, we are going to learn about the goto statement in C. Now, goto is used to jump to any specified location in your code. Okay, the syntax is very simple. You have this keyword reserved in C called as goto, small letters, and you place a label. Okay, now let's try to see how this goto works by working on this example. Okay, let's say you'd like to take a positive number from the user and then display it. Now, whenever you write this program, sometimes user may also enter a negative number. Okay, so whenever user enters the negative number, I would like to ask the user to enter the number one more time. So we can use goto in this case. Okay, so first of all, you need to have a label in order to use the goto. Okay, so let's put a label in this printf statement, enter the positive number. Let's say the label can be any valid identifier. Let me give the label as label 1. Okay, you can give any label and then you give a colon here. Okay, this is what you need to write down. You can give any name here, any valid identifier is okay as a label. Okay, so then I scan the number is scanned from the user, so user will enter the number n. Okay, so if n is negative, because I would like the user to enter the positive number. If user enters a negative number, what I do is I'll use goto and then I'll write label 1 and then you give a semicolon. Okay, this is the syntax, goto space, you give the statement label. So here label is label 1. So what happens once this is encountered is that it will go to the label 1 and then again it's kind of a loop. Now it is actually creating a loop kind of a structure for me. Okay, so whenever user enters a negative number, let's say the user enters -5. So whenever it's -5, it's a negative number, so this is true, right? -5 is less than 0 is true. So it will encounter go to label 1. It will go to label 1. So it will go back to label 1 and will execute enter a positive number. So again user will be asked to enter a positive number. Let's say user enters -6 in this case. Okay, so again this is true, -6 is less than 0. So it will encounter the label, go to statement. So it will go to label 1 and it will ask one more time to enter the positive number. Okay, let's say now user enters the number which is actually positive now. Okay, let's say user enters 6, positive number 6. Now this is false, right? So now goto is not encountered and then it will come and execute the statement that is available after the goto statement. Okay, maybe this statement. Let's say here I'll write printf done. So I'm done with my program. Okay, so this is how goto works. So it is helping me to jump back to this line wherein I'm printing the message enter a positive number. Okay, to any specified location. So how do I specify the location is by giving a label. Okay, so this is how goto statement works. Now, goto statements sometimes can create a lot of confusion. Okay, let's say you are having this kind of a program wherein you are using goto many times. I'm using goto here, right? I'm using goto here. I'm using goto here. I'm using goto here, right? So if you write goto multiple times, many times, the structure of your program is not readable and it is very difficult to understand and maintain your code. Let's look at this example. So here label A, label D, label B and label C are available. Here I go to label C. Okay, so here I go to label C, that means I go to label C, that means I go here. Okay, and let me see, I have go to label A, so I have to go to label A, right? So here I go to this label A. Okay, and here I go to label B. Okay, so here I go to label B and here I go to label D. I go to label D. See the structure of the program is spoiled now. Okay, so this is one of the bad examples of goto. Therefore many programmers suggest not to use goto because it makes your program difficult to maintain. Now this kind of a code is called as spaghetti code. It's like a spaghetti, right? So it's like a mess. You know, the structure is spoiled, so it's very difficult to understand this kind of a code. So this is an unstructured code. Okay, and it's difficult to read and maintain this kind of a code. Therefore, wherever possible, please avoid using goto statement. Okay, whatever you can achieve using goto, you can actually achieve the same using for loop, while loop or do while loop. And more to that, if required, you can use break and continue to, actually jump from your loop. Okay, now let's try to look at a code which demonstrates how difficult it is to understand a code having a goto statement. So I've written down a program here. In this program there are 19 lines. Okay, now just by looking at this, I'm having two labels, label 1 and label 2. Now it is quite difficult to understand what does this program actually do. You will have to actually sit with your pen and paper and then trace this entire program to actually understand what it does. We just are having two labels in this case, or two goto statements in this case. If you have multiple gotos, things would get more complicated, right? Now let's try to execute this code first and then see what it prints. Okay, so it is displaying the square of first 10 natural numbers. 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9, and then 10 square is 100, right? But it was quite difficult for us to understand this initially looking at this code. Okay, you can actually write the same code using a for loop. It's very simple and the code becomes more structured if you write it using a for loop. Okay, so I'll just write int I is my variable for, because I'm trying to find the square of first 10 natural numbers. So first number is 1 and I'll go up to less than equals to 10 I plus plus. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'll have to print the square. Okay, I try to print the square here. How do I print the square? I times I. Okay, in the first iteration I is 1, so it will be 1 squared. In the second iteration I is 2, it will be 2 squared. In the last iteration I is 10, so it will be 10 squared, that is 100. Okay, so this loop will run. At the end I'll just write printf end of the program. Okay, so this is the same code but it is using the for loop. Okay, so let me just comment this entire thing, that is using goto statement. Okay, and now let's try to compile this code. On running this, we see the same output, that is the square of first 10 natural numbers. 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9, and 10 square is 100, right? So if you just look at this code is very easy to understand. It is more structured. Okay, so loop promotes structured programming, and goto will make your code unreadable and difficult to maintain, and it will be the unstructured code. Therefore, please avoid using goto as much as possible. In case if you are using goto, make sure that you are more careful to make your code readable and maintainable. I hope you have understood how goto statement works in this lecture. That's all in this lecture. Stay tuned.